Progress.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you call roll for us?
Yes. Vice Chair Willis?
Present.
Board Member Ulinskis?
Present.
Board Member Eagleson-Chesowich?
Present.
Board Member Pease?
Present.
For the record, we have quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any agenda changes, additions, deletions today?
No changes.
Thank you. And any public comment?
To the Vice Chair, I have not received any raised hands.
Okay.
Nope. Yep.
Nothing. All right. And can we have the board schedule of meetings and assignments?
Yes. Good morning. Bear with me while I share my screen here. All right, well, welcome to our March meeting. Listed in the packet as well as on the screen are the remaining meetings for the year. If there's any planned absences, staff will update that accordingly. Just noting that the chair is absent for the meeting today. And I wanted to provide some updates of upcoming events. So the Historic Resources Board recruitment was extended until April 8th to solicit some more applications for council. And we have what we're going to be discussing later on today, the Certified Local Government Annual Report that's due on April 24th. So we have some time between now, today's discussion, until it's submitted to the state. There is the Historic Preservation Conference for the state, May 6th through the 9th in Riverside. And we have yet to determine a date, but staff will work with the board and coordinate offline for the Palo Alto Historic Awards that we decided at our last meeting.
And along those lines, on May 3rd, past Heritage is giving their annual awards at the Historical Association meeting from 2 to 4 on Sunday the 3rd.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Stephen. So anything else before we move on to the CLG report? Okay, thank you. Let's talk about that.
All right, well, here we are, that time again of the year for our Certified Local Government CLG annual report. Just have a brief few slides here. So this is the product of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 that established the CLG program. It encourages direct participation of local governments in preservation efforts. Palo Alto has been a certified local government since 1992 when it was first certified. This reporting period that we're discussing is from October 24th to September 25, and the deadline to submit is April 24th, 2026. And just a few highlights from the annual report. There were 9 meetings in the reporting period, 5 members who served, and if there's any additional trainings, please provide that to staff. What's included in the packet is just a draft and doesn't include some of the board members' trainings that I've received after the publishing of the packet. So thank you for sending that over. We still have ample time to compile those items and put it in the report before we send it off to the state. And I did want to make a note that the state changed the form. It had previously been a Word document where we were able to review all of the text that is written in the report, and now it's a fillable PDF, so it's great for accessibility online, but reading it in printed version can prove a little bit challenging, so there's some wayfinding. Happy to provide some of that text to the board members should they want to review that in further detail, but a lot of the items are still carried over from previous report years. of how the city operates, where the city's zoning code for the historic preservation ordinance is located. So a lot of the information is a continuation from those previous reports that the board has reviewed. So what's changing in the report is the member training, as well as the meeting dates and those reporting items that are in flux for each reporting period. And with that, I can entertain any questions. We can have a discussion about perhaps maybe best practices moving forward for these reports.
I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but I'd like to start with just filling in the things we can't read. So can you just tell us what it says on the lines that aren't accessible?
Sure. So let me pull up that document.
Number 2 is the first one where it glitches out.
All right. Let me share my screen again, and then perhaps we can walk through that document. Okay, so number 2, the first item, explain how the historic preservation staff and commission's role in providing input on CEQA documents prepared for or by the local government. So the text written here is the same as last year's, and that's just that the historic preservation planner as well as planning staff are involved in the scoping and review of administrative draft CEQA documents involving historical resources and related technical reports, including historic resource evaluations and the Secretary of Interior Standards reports. Generally, the Historic Resources Board is not involved in the development of draft environmental documents. However, staff seeks historic preservation consultant assistance for CEQA documents for major architectural review projects that include properties listed on the local historic inventory or determined to be California Register eligible. And if we move on, happy to read through any of these texts
I
here.
don't think you can answer this for me, but, I'm just looking at this, and I have no idea why the Historic Resources Board did not review the Julia Morgan that is looking not very Julia Morgan from my perspective any longer. The front facade is intact, but not much else. And was that a mistake that it did not come to us, or is there somewhere in here that says that is a staff responsibility?
So we do have quite a few Julia Morgans, and
Excuse me? Where?
well, we have the 2, so I would
Thank you.
consider that a few. So
You don't know which one I'm talking about?
I presume you're talking about the residence.
Yeah.
So if you have that address, the address is not coming to mind off the top of my head, but if
I want to
you're
go
referring,
423 Chaucer, but I'm not positive, something like that.
Right.
It's definitely Chaucer.
if you're referring to the development that's occurring with the remodel, so that is captured by a building permit. So as what would be described in this report, that's not subject to CEQA. It was a non-discretionary process. So there was an evaluation that staff had prepared for that particular property with a consultant, with Page and Turnbull, that reviewed the historical plans and suggested some revised additions, if you will, for that specified work. That project was admittedly before my time with the staff, but I believe that we had discussed that previously offline, but happy to address it here again, that had gone through the proper channels of being reviewed by and receiving a historic resource evaluation. So the work was reviewed by historic preservationists and industry standards. So if there's a concern about the adequacy of that review, happy to address that, but that process is the standard process where building permits are reviewed by staff and not by the Historic Resources Board. So had it been a larger type of development, that would have warranted that work to come before the Historic Resources Board.
Larger development in what way? I guess I just want to understand. Okay, I take responsibility for what happened to that building. And, you know, you're saying, no, it's not my responsibility. And, you know, it wasn't something that should be under the purview of the HRB. But Julia Morgan was a significant architect in our world, you know. Maybe if we were somewhere else, it wouldn't be true. We do have another of her buildings, a very casual building that was built to be temporary, as you may recall, for the war veterans when they built it in Menlo Park. But it was moved into Palo Alto, and we're happy to have it. we love it. But I just want to understand when people ask me why the HRB allowed the Julia Morgan to be disassembled, you know, half demolished. I want an answer, and maybe I just need to see the historic review of the building, which we haven't. I think in the future, if there is I think it's a category 1, category 2, one or the other. But I think when something of that significance is significantly modified, that at least, I don't know what you call it, but, like a courtesy notice to the HRB of, this is how it was, this is who reviewed it, and this is what they found. And, if anybody, if you need to talk to anybody about it, because it's obviously a conversation piece, then, here's the situation. But to put us in it blind and then to have it such a major project, I mean, I love my neighbors. I'm sure they're doing a great job, but, is that going to be a Julia Morgan any longer? I don't think so. It's pretty, I don't know if you've seen the plans or, what's actually been done, but yes, it's a Julia Morgan facade that was already seriously modified when it lost the adjacent properties. But I just want to be, I don't want to feel so powerless. I want to at least have some information when something like that happens under our purview.
Right. So just a few things on that, and before we get too off topic about the certified local government actual report, just to address the concerns that were brought up. I believe that there was an inquiry regarding that, and I had provided that historic resources evaluation and that documentation via email. Happy to provide that again. And this wasn't subject to the purview of the Historic Resources Board, so at face value, that's the reason why it didn't come to the Historic Resources Board. Definitely hearing the desire to have some notification of some of these building permits or processes that perhaps are handled at the staff level, just directing our attention to the Historic Preservation Ordinance where there are some items that don't get elevated up to the board level. So if we can, have that discussion, perhaps in the Certified Local Government Annual Report, I think that would be a great way to continue with the action item that we have before us today.
Yeah, I have to admit, I heard everything you said. I still don't understand why it didn't come to us.
Right. Well, it was a building permit and not a discretionary process. And that level of work was located in the rear, and it was an addition. So that was determined by Page and Turnbull and the historic preservation consultant to not be elevated up to that. Should there want to be more discussion on the item, we can agendize something at a further date, but I believe that we are getting a little off topic here regarding off the certified local government report. So happy to take that up offline.
Thank you.
All right, well, if we want to move on, are there any other sections that would like to be discussed in the document? Happy to go through those.
Yeah, I'd like to, well, I don't know about discussion, but I'd like to continue going through the ones we can't read. So the second item under item 2, the staff and commission role in reviewing.
I was just going to ask kind of broadly a related question. Are the section 2 and 3 responses the same as they were last year?
Correct. They are the exact same as they were last year, and that was reviewed and accepted by the board. And making a note of that. Thank you for that, board member Chiselwitz.
I have one question, which is, in these descriptions where it says the historic preservation planner, is it the individual planner handling the project for the city, or is that always you when this mentions the historic preservation planner?
So it would be referencing the role that I'm currently in. So whether if I were to leave, whatever my replacement would be, that would be the staff for the city that would be taking up that level of review. So. And I'm happy to entertain if there's any suggested language for some of these, if there's a desire to change from what we've sent to the state in previous years. Please direct any of that suggested language over to staff. We're happy to review it.
So what is the best way for us to review the things we can't see? So you could either send us that language separately, or just send us last year's report where it's the similar language. Can we read last year's report? I mean, I'm sure I have it somewhere, I just don't know where it is.
Right, happy to send that over. This fillable PDF was sent over, but there may be some issues with reading these sections. It is a little interesting trying to navigate the new form provided by the state, but happy to make that easier for the board members to review the information that's more or less the same as last year's. So.
Okay, but so the page we're looking at, page 3, section 2, neither one of those paragraphs is legible beside the first line. And then section 3, the same problem, that we can read, the historic preservation planner with consultant assistant and HRB and/or HRB provide input, but we can't actually read the meat and potatoes of that one. So I think any place there was a fillable thing, we can't see behind the first line. So however you provide us, that would be great. Just because I don't, married to a lawyer, can't sign off on things I haven't read. So however you can get it to us would be great. So does anybody have specific things within the report that they would like to discuss that we can actually read?
I have one question where it talks about qualified professionals being on the commission. Is there a list of professional backgrounds that are considered qualified?
Yes, so we do have the requirements for the Historic Resources Board board members, and that's part of the recruitment. Those are currently satisfied with the setting board, having either a background in history or having a, say, licensed historian or perhaps a background in architecture. Those items would be those qualifying statement of professional qualifications. As for what's provided to the state, it's the bios that are provided and listed on our current website. So that's taken off of our website, that's been provided to staff from each of the board members. So that's what's provided to the state on that. So.
I seem to remember it's in our ordinance, but, maybe if you could send out the requirements for board members, since we already have architects and a historic homeowner that are required to be on the board, maybe you could sort of pinpoint what we're looking for now. I don't know if we're required more than those three. But since we need to recruit, and we obviously need to recruit, it would be good to know if there are qualifications that we need to fill.
Right, so the city clerk is handling the recruitment, and all of that information is listed through the current recruitment on those three positions. But happy to provide that to the board to have some, further coordination of the current recruitment that is going out until April 8th.
Can you just read that section to us? So, because we just want to know, like, what, do we need a historian? Do we need something in particular? Or can we just get mom?
Right, so that is in our administrative code regarding the organization. So that's Title II. And all right, well, let's share my screen and we can see those requirements.
Thanks, Steve. I know it's background, but I really feel like recruitment is a huge priority for us right now.
All right, so 2 members shall be professionals in the disciplines of architecture, architectural history, planning, landscape architecture, or related disciplines, or prehistory and history of archaeology, folklore, cultural anthropology, curation, or conservation. At least 1 member shall possess an academic education or practical experience in history or a related field, such as American Studies, American Civilization, or Cultural Geography. And the Palo Alto Historical Association shall be given notice of vacancies of the board and shall encourage to have members submit applications.
So we no longer require a member who has a historic house. I didn't realize, I guess I'd forgotten that.
Correct. If we look down in the ordinance here, we can kind of see that record, right, of when items were updated. So that was recently updated in 2024 with the reduction of the number of the board from 7 members down to 5, as well as reducing some of those requirements due to some of the concerns of the city clerk having with the extended recruitment and multiple recruitments to get the Historic Resources Board appointed members. So that was a result of those efforts in 2024.
Okay, so what we're looking for is somebody with a background in history. At least one of the 2 should have a background in history, except, Alyssa, do you qualify?
I think I would qualify as a conservator.
Correct.
So we can grab anybody we can grab. We filled our requirements with the 3 of us.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so it could be from the top line, which was architectural history, architecture, landscape, planning, that whole thing. Okay. That was very helpful, thank you.
So just a little bit of housekeeping, if we will, for this item. This is no actions required. It's just that the board received the report, so it's in its draft form. As we compile some of these trainings from the board members, happy to send over that final draft of the actual report and clear up some of the languages and the reviewing, if you will, of those sections that were unavailable to certain board members with the fillable PDF and the changing of that state form. So that would be next steps.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure it's all fine, but it's just a little bit, it's like half of it's missing, so it's hard to review. Sorry, I still haven't, do we review minutes? I haven't found my thing yet. Oh, approval of minutes, sorry. And it does mention that okay, so we don't need to do anything further with the CLG report, but you're gonna,
Correct.
Okay.
There's no need for an action.
okay. So approval of minutes. Does anybody have any corrections or changes before we approve them?
Can I ask just one last clarification, which is on item number 4, A, public education. It lists this note about seismic on event. Why does this?
So there was we have a seismic advisory group that has been evaluating. It kicked off during the reporting period, a evaluation of our current ordinance and updating some of those requirements or incentives to have some of the buildings, such as unreinforced masonry, or whether historic buildings, a majority of those unsafe buildings are of older natures, of having different compliance with building codes. So the city's evaluating what changes, if any, could be made to better create a better built environment. So that first meeting of the advisory group was kicked off during the reporting period, and it is continual effort ongoing right now. So that would be reflected in next year's report of this ongoing effort. So.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of minor, on page 9, the second motion, Geddes was elevated to council member. I think we should probably bring him back into our fold. And then at the very bottom line, Board Member Pease wanted to have that conversation and take the decision, but I assume it was make the decision.
All right. Thank you.
And do we have any further thoughts on board retreat? Okay, maybe we should approve the minutes first. Never mind. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I'll move to approve the corrected minutes from February 12th, 2026.
Thank you. And a second?
I second that.
Thank you. And all in favor? Aye? No? Can we do a voice vote? Yeah.
That would be acceptable.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, great. The minutes are approved. So now, miscellaneous announcements, whatever we have. So, any questions, comments, announcements from others?
The public comment, the message that came through about the Mills Act, I just wanted to know how that person was going to be responded to. Are your staff going to do that, or?
Happy to provide that response over to the board of my response to the public comment. Currently, the city doesn't have a Mills Act program, but there is one property that is under Mills Act, the Squire House. So providing, the that interested party that information, as well as the desire, should they want to take up that interest with council, that's where that decision would.
Great. I just want to
come.
make sure there was a prompt response.
I feel like we need to organize a board retreat. I feel like one thing that was missing this year was priorities, and I, for one, am frustrated that we've made no progress on the inventory, which I believe is kind of our base level that we operate from, and it's kind of like, we're standing on shaky ground, and I don't feel like we're ever gonna restabilize until we update that inventory. So that's my priority, but I'm not sure that is everybody's on the board's priority. So I feel like we desperately need a retreat where we sit down and we hash it out and we get a work plan that we can all live with and act upon, because I feel really strongly that we're kind of losing our grip on preservation in Palo Alto, and if we make our inventory hard to decipher and find whether property is even on it, it's not all in one place. We have these historic districts that aren't really part of our preservation program, but they're part of the state program. I feel like there's quite a lot we need to operate on. I asked Stephen before, but I'd really like to agendize for our next meeting what goes on, like the index for the inventory, because Stephen asked Sam and I to start there. Sam's been missing in action. There's all kinds of things that we could, include, the date it was built, whether it's a landmark building, the category, the architect, the builder, but how much of that do we want on our, because right now it is just a list of addresses, and I think we probably want more than that, but that's my feeling. So I would like a board discussion on what the index looks like. So I'm hoping we could do that sooner rather than later. And then beyond that, I feel like it's really important that we all sit down and I know I want to do this with our 2 new members. So, it's not going to be, next month or the month after, but I would definitely like to kind of, get it on the radar and pick a date and make sure we all don't schedule our whatever travels on that particular date. I'd like to, start working towards a really serious retreat, because I think we need to put our heads together and figure out how to strengthen preservation program in Palo Alto.
Thank you for that. And just a suggestion, there is a current recruitment for 3 of the board members sitting on the board, so of their terms either terming out or following the lapse of maybe an appointment. So perhaps having a retreat for the new board composition might prove not as helpful to the board moving forward. So having the retreat following the appointment of those 3 new members probably would be staff's recommendation. And there is a current recruitment for an intern for the Planning and Development Services Department. So some of those tasks would be to help assist with the historic inventory and making that a much more user-friendly document. So just wanting to provide that information over to the board.
Give me an intern. I need an intern. I guess I definitely want to wait for the new members. I thought I was clear on that one. But I just feel like we should maybe stake out July, middle of the summer. I don't know. September. I mean, okay, I'm going to assume we will have a full board by June. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I'm going there. Don't discourage me. So I would like to pick a date after our June meeting where we aim to have our retreat. And okay, maybe it doesn't work out for whatever reason, but I just feel like, July, August, people travel. September, people are still traveling. Then October, oh, it's almost the holidays. I just want it on the schedule so it happens. I don't want to wait for next spring. So, can we just arbitrarily pick, our second meeting in July?
Well, the board meets at a frequency of one time a month, so, if there's a desire to have a special meeting, that could be looked at, but if we're thinking after June, the month of July would come to mind, August, those meeting dates would be available at our regular scheduled meetings. If you're discussing or thinking of having a special meeting, we can look at that and look at the availability of board chambers, or perhaps a conference room for a little bit more of an intimate setting for a retreat rather than structured, say, at the dais and the staff table, as we currently are in council chambers now. So that can be looked at, but if there's any of the regular scheduled meetings that wouldn't fit that, it would have to be a special meeting, so.
So now that we're thinking about, so let's talk about what we're looking for. So maybe not a special, maybe it's a special meeting at a different time, because 8:30 is kind of one of the things you have to plan on, these days. And it would be nice if we could have, other preservationists come talk to us, maybe if we all met the president of Past Heritage. I'm sure there's other people that, would be, especially because we're going to have new members, I think sort of, the meet and greet thing would be a really important part of our thing. And I do feel like the conference room is important, because this is not, I think we need to be face to face and have serious discussions about what our priorities are. And we can't just assume we know what everybody else's are. That we need to hash it out and get a serious work plan that we really believe in, that we're not like just saying, I'll do it after this other part. It's like we need to know the sequence, and we need to commit to. Well, I feel like we need to commit to doing at least something next year, or this year. I'm planning to be on the board for the end of this term, but it's 2 more years, and I do not want to walk away without having that inventory upgraded. So. I think that conference room is a great idea. I think more casual environment, maybe a slightly later time in the day might work better, just to get people in and out, or, come and talk to us. But I don't know, maybe first thing in the morning is the easiest, I don't know. Other thoughts on that one, but I'm really interested in having I feel like we had a retreat last year that was not functional in any way, shape, or form. I just don't feel like it accomplished what we needed to accomplish. So I would like to see us come up with a plan where we can actually put something together where we can give ourselves a good foundation for this coming year. Nobody else wants to ramble?
Well, one suggestion I have is, because Page and Turnbull seems to be so much a part of the historic evaluation that is sort of outside of this council, maybe Page and Turnbull is part of that retreat, and that somehow, we understand what they are, where their role is, and how we fit in, and sort of really make sure there's a clear understanding with the board.
Right, so what I'm hearing for potential retreat options, or topics, should I say, would be board composition, the composition of, say, the ordinance and how we approach historic reviews and how consultants' work ties into that, is what I'm hearing, and also the ongoing topic of a retreat, which would be the work plan for the Historic Resources Board. So having that being discussed as one of the items, and though the work plan for this past fiscal year, or the fiscal year that we're about to end, was approved by council just in February, working through what those new work plan goals would be, I think would be great topics for that retreat. So I do just want to note that it may prove a little difficult to stake out a date for this item with 3 potential new board members and not knowing their schedules. So trying to figure out a date without knowing 3 people's schedules might prove a little difficult. So just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Well, again, we could say that being part of the Historic Research Board is a commitment, and that, this is part of the commitment, is this retreat.
Yeah, but if you already got plans to be in France on that day, nobody's going to change their plans. Well, okay. I guess I was just asking if we could stake out a temporary date and hope that that would work out, because, I hate to keep pushing it back and pushing back and pushing it back, and I'm going with 3 of us. I assume they'll reappoint Alyssa, so I like to imagine we're only looking for 2 new board members, because otherwise I might start hyperventilating. But I think that I just feel like if we sort of, if we picked a date, I'd say 50-50 it works, right? I mean, if it works for us.
If I may, perhaps following the new board member's appointment would be the date of the retreat. So that date is in flux. We do not know as of now. We have a current recruitment until April 8th. So perhaps if you want to agree upon some language, this is not an action item, it's just discussion, but perhaps thinking and staking out a date following the appointment of the new board members would be a commitment.
Okay, that does sound reasonable. I hate to admit it, but reasonable. So how long does it usually take after applications are submitted? Do you know that? I don't remember.
The city clerk does handle those appointments. Happy to address that question with their office and relay that back to the board.
I guess part of it probably depends on the council's agenda and when they have time to review the potential applicants, right? So it's probably not a set date.
And there's also the interview thing, so that takes a council meeting too.
Okay, troops, recruit. So, anything further?
Yeah, this is going to be my last meeting with the board, and I just want to thank everybody here and say I've been so impressed over, I think it's 2.5 or 3 terms before they did the limit, with the commitment of the people that have been on this board to these objectives. In this economy and the way everything is in the environment around here, it's a hard job. The delay in having the old inventory and the process we went through with that and so forth, searching for new incentives for people to consider listing their homes. And I hope something can be done, although I think it's difficult, for those who are very affluent, to offer them something that would be very attractive to them, other than building a much bigger house and tearing something completely down, or for those who are less affluent, who may have been in their homes for a long time and are house rich, to offer them something to do that. And I know that's a really hard thing to do, but I just see this as to stop the momentum of things disappearing and to preserve them in some form or another is going to be pretty challenging. And I really respect the folks who put so much energy into this and care so much about it, because it really does make a difference how this town looks. And I think it's part of why people come here. It's not a barrier, but it's actually something that attracts people. To not have a place that all looks like it started getting built in 1980, just put it that way. So thank you so much, and thank you. And I've really, I've learned a lot, and I've appreciated being able to be part of this. So I just wanted to tell you that. So
Thank you. It's been really great working with you.
I want to say that I was really fortunate to be able to collaborate with Board Member Peace on the incentives research, and his creativity and thoughtfulness in really looking at that project was really inspiring to me. And I hope that something happens with the document that he helped create, that eventually there is some change and some action, because there were some very good ideas there.
we did manage in a kind of a difficult process to get some data capture of the Fry site. That data exists somewhere. I'm pretty clear who did it and what its nature is, but I don't think there's a home for that anywhere. And I don't know if possibly the museum could do this, but it's a problem, and I would just hope that somebody would follow up and make sure that that stuff is recorded somewhere and archived and doesn't just disappear, because it might, one way or another, become important at some point. And increasingly with places that are being rediscovered or reimagined or have been destroyed, having had this kind of recordation done has made a really big difference. And of course, the best example of that is the Notre Dame Cathedral. So without that, it probably couldn't have been restored to the level of accuracy that it has been. So.
And if I may, I just would like to thank Board Member Peace for his service, and would strongly encourage, though you did mention that this would be your last meeting, there is a recruitment, and the administrative code does allow a sitting board member to stay seated until their replacement is appointed. So considering that we reduced from 7 to 5, I would encourage if you can stay on until we find a replacement. So.
For personal reasons, I really can't, so I'm sorry about that. Otherwise, I would.
We will miss you,
Oh, I'll miss you all, too.
and thank you. Before we do adjourn, is there any update on the awards?
So the contacts have been acquired, and staff is working to get some acceptance, if you will, via email, as well as the phone numbers that we have on record for some of those further dating back projects, if you will. So staff is working diligently in the background to get some attendance for an award program and securing a space for said awards. So stay tuned.
Thank you. So you're working on securing a space, and we don't have a date yet, right?
We do not. I can send out a poll for board member availability, as well as inviting past board members to the said award. So.
Do we want to do a poll on board availability? Do we have a selection of dates? I mean, do we have any thoughts on day of the week, evening, weekend? Do we have any parameters at all?
Right. I believe that it might be more appropriate to take that offline, and we can kind of select a short list, if you will, of event spaces as well as potential dates. So,
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Did I already do that?
Sorry?
A motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Done.
Yes.
Thank you. Goodbye, Christian.
Take care.
Okay.